Thank you. So I will give you a practitioner's point of view and my thoughts as I was asked to replace Keith Carr, who is the general counsel of the Alstom Group. Now, one thing that I cannot do is that I am not an English solicitor, since I am a French avocat and now working in-house. So I will only give the perspective of someone who has worked in France for more than 20 years in French, US multinationals, some companies which are state-owned, some which are listed, and in different law firms, French, American, or international. In my opinion, there are cultural, sociologic, historic, political, and legal factors which influence the independence of our profession. And you can be independent if you know who you are. So I think it's an excellent idea to want to have a code of ethics, because I think it will be the best way to reinforce our identity and to shape a stronger identity. Because I think to some extent this profession suffers from an insufficient identity which is not self-defined, but always defined as a comparison with the neighboring professions. So let's identify what makes us unique, and let's have common values. Independence is also ensured by being clear on who we are advising when we are working for a company. Are we representing the individuals we are advising on a daily basis, the management or the chairman? Or are we advising the company and its shareholders? And there may be many conflicts between the interests of the management and those of the shareholders in a company. And this is where the question becomes important, because this is, in my opinion, where we can feel as in-house lawyers the tension which may exist and which may put our independence at stake. Now, independence is also a matter of intellectual and economic freedom. I'm not going to talk about economic freedom because it's a topic which has been addressed many times. I would like to say a few things about intellectual freedom and how do we ensure that this dimension is guaranteed. What are the key factors of intellectual independence? First, as mentioned by Christophe Roquilly, I think leadership is essential. And leadership is very much a personal skill. It's not really something you learn. You can be trained, but it is really a matter of personality. Then comes the question of education. And the quality of the legal education and of the continuous education is, in my opinion, extremely important. And I think we can ask ourselves whether the legal education in our country is adapted to the needs and whether it is respected. This is a vast topic, and there is, in my opinion, and here I am expressing my personal opinion, not a company's opinion, there is a large room for improvement in some countries, and specifically in France, to ensure that the legal education is adapted to the needs of our clients and the needs of the market. I am coming from a country where parents will send their teenagers to law schools only if there is no other solution. This is definitely not the place where you send the elite in France. And this explains, in my opinion, a lot of things about independence of the lawyers in France. I'm sorry. Intellectual independence is also a question of governance, and they are here. Now, I'm a French lawyer, so I don't want to offend anyone here. So intellectual independence is also a question of governance and quality of the mechanisms for ensuring this independence. There are several mechanisms which are available for ensuring this independence. You have mentioned several of them. The corporate governance mechanisms are here to reinforce this independence, and I think we should make sure that these mechanisms are reinforced whenever it is possible. There are already in companies across Europe many functions which benefit from these corporate governance tools, and internal corporate audit is an example. And I'm sure that we could definitely benefit to some extent in many circumstances from these tools. So to finish, what influences the independence in practice? I think the question of the quality of the corporate culture and the corporate governance is key. Second is how active the shareholders are in the governance. I have worked, for example, in a big French state-owned company where the shareholder was not playing its role as a shareholder. So the management basically had total freedom to act in its own interest and not in the interest, in my opinion, of the shareholder. Now, in fact, to tell you the truth, I resigned from this position, which is an illustration of my strong independence. You have understood, I guess. Whether the management of a company is sensitive to the issue of the independence of the in-house lawyer is also key, and there are still, in my opinion, very archaic attitudes in many countries, not to start with France, which in many respects is very oligarchic in the way it treats its in-house lawyers. And then the question is the balance between the shareholders, the board, and the management of a company. And I think here there are many possibilities. So to conclude, I think as far as France is concerned, I think neither the bar in France nor the business community represented by the Confederation of Companies are in favor today of the independence of in-house lawyers, and I know it because I have experienced it in different positions that I had, including the position I have today as a board member of Cercle Montesquieu. And I think it's going to take time to change this situation. As to the bar, I think the bar will need to understand that they have an interest to see the development of the in-house function because it is going to bring more business to the lawyers practicing as outside lawyers. And as to company confederations to make them move in the right direction, I think they will one day understand that the privilege of communication is ultimately to the benefit of the management. But for this, we will probably need to have a few top managers sentenced in the absence of a privileged communication for them to realize that they have an interest to change their opinion. Thank you.